On this next project, we're going to be working with Affinity Photo or another photo editing program that you might prefer, such as Adobe Photoshop or Photoshop Lite. This project is meant to bring together different elements onto a single poster sized artboard and also incorporate some typography with the primary and supporting imagery to create a very interesting and visually appealing collage of one of the major events that I have cited in La Lima. So you're going to start with I have Affinity Photo open, and I'm actually going to just go walk through this with you. If you go to the new document window and select print, you'll find that there is a ledger, which is also a tabloid, and below is the inch dimension 11 by 17. And the instructions for this is to create it in a landscape format. So make sure that your orientation is landscape, and you can select transparent background. All of the other elements here, well, millimeters, you might want to do that in inches, although you really won't pay attention too much to the ruler on this project. I would suggest image placement to be set to prefer embedded. And that just means that any image that you import into your file will actually be placed in your file and not linked. So that helps avoid elements being lost or decoupled from each other. So I'm going to hit create. And now I have my artboard. And so as you had seen from a few of the examples that I put up online, the idea here is to come up with an interesting combination of elements. Here's something I found for stock market. Here's kind of an example. We have some visual elements. We have some graphics like this little chart line, maybe some text. So I'm going to go through that. I have found a couple of images for what I'm going to create for you here in this demo. I found a vintage car, and I'm going to just go to place and then navigate to where I have it on my desktop, and I'm going to select open. And then you get this little icon where you can click it into your window so that it releases that image. And in this instance, I'm going to make this my background image so I can put other things on top. So I'm going to grab it in the corner and just scale it up so it fits nicely onto my artboard. So remember that you want your collage to basically fill the entire space. So you can have images that roll over the edge, and when you finalize it, then of course it'll crop it right to the edge of the artboard. And also choose images that have a high resolution. So when you're doing say a Google search, you'll note the pixel size, and if you can get it above 800 or 900 pixels on either edge, that's a pretty good size for the work that we are engaging here on these posters. Thing to note about importing photos like this is when you have imported them, you need to rasterize the photo. Otherwise, you can't go into the photo and erase things that you want to erase. So just choose rasterize. And then at that point, if you'd like to explore these tools such as the eraser tool, you can do that. And you can also use the magic wand tool or the selection brush tool if you want to select certain elements. That would be if you would like to erase parts of your photo. So as you can see here, I can now erase anything that I don't want to have visible. If I want to do that, maybe I want to erase all of the background here on the wall behind the image because I'm going to put other things behind. You have to just be careful that you erase in a nice clean way around the edge of the object that you want to keep. And I also created a peace sign. I could have found one online, but I wanted to create one in Affinity Designer. So I created a peace sign out of lines and circles in the vector program that we just worked on in the most recent project. And that comes in quite large because I made a very large peace sign. And remember, what you see here is your active area, and anything outside, you don't see it here with this vector shape. You don't have to have your shapes be entirely contained within the margin of your active artboard. You could do something like this where you leave it extra large and let the viewer sort of take in your object from a different perspective. And at this point, I want to start to do some creative things with my my project here. So I'm going to add over here in layers, in the layer panel, I'm going to add a new layer, and I'm going to put a I'm going to put a color over everything. You'll see why I'm going to do that in a minute. So I'm going to put a color on top with this layer, and I'm going to choose a color here, go up to fill. And then I'm going to come back over here to the to the layers panel, and I'm going to change the view. I'm going to create a filter for this blue rectangle. As you notice here, as I sort of toggle between the different options, it creates a very different look for on the screen for my artboard. So there's all kinds of options here. So just find one that you think is pleasing and interesting. All right. And I can do the same with my peace sign. So my peace sign, I can actually make it a little bit less visible if I want, right? So that it's more transparent. And I can also so I'm gonna move it around a little bit, and this is part of the process of creating this collage. Finally, the project needs to include the year and the name of the event that you chose. So you come over here to the artistic text tool, and you select that, and then you can add the year in there. And up here at the very top, you'll notice that since you are in the text tool, you can actually And with the other, just as with the other ones, you can also give this a color. And once you have done that, you can do something creative, like perhaps have it run up the side. And don't forget that you have that ability to either work with one of these filters, or you can also change the opacity, right? Make it a little bit more transparent if you want to make it transparent, right? And the other text that we had was, sorry, make sure you don't click back into that field. You're going to have to deselect that. And if you want to create a second, text field, you'll have to make sure that you are and maybe I want to change the color on this one. So you're going to add all of your elements into your collage, and then with all of these different layers, you'll notice every time you add a new element, you'll get a new layer. Then you can start to move things around. If you want to begin to find that composition that's going to be interesting and kind of nicely arranged. And that's how you put it together. So I'm going to stop this video here and post this, and then I will do some more as we get further along.